Welcome back, everyone, to Learning Hebrew. We are on Chapter 9, going over word pairs, the singular forms. Here is the vocabulary for this chapter. Over here in the right-hand column, we have Adon, Adonim, which is Lord or Master. Next one we have Adam, Adam, person, or mankind. And by the way, Adam would be the proper name, Adam, such as Adam and Eve. Next word is Gam, which means also. We have Yad and Yadaim, which is hand. Next word is Yada, which is the verb to know. Ki, that or because. Kol, and this is pronounced kol also. It's just spelled with comments, but they're both pronounced kol. That is all, every, or the whole. Next column we have Lev and Levav, which is heart. Mi, which is who. Moshe, which is Moses. Allah, the verb go up or send. Rosh, and Ra'oshim, which is head, top, or leader. Shalom, which I'm sure sounds very familiar. That is peace or completeness. And the last one is Shem, and the plural form Shemot, which is name. And just a note here, again, we have this construction mi that can be confused with the preposition meaning from. So this is just where you'll have to pay attention to context. So in some chapters, they'll introduce idioms, and these are the idioms for this chapter. We have this phrase al yad, which is idiom meaning near or next to. Literally, this says upon the hand or on the hand, which is, if you were to visualize that, it's something that's close. If it's on a hand, it's close. If it's on your hand, it's obviously close. That's near or next to. We also have pacol, which literally is the every, the all, and that just means everything. That's what that idiom means. So if you see al yad, it just means near or next to. If you see pacol, it means everything. So this chapter introduces what we call Hebrew word pairs. So a noun can be used to describe another noun. We see this in English too, but in English the word of is often used when two nouns are joined in this way. So for example, you have the noun king and you have the noun peace. When you join them together, it's a king of peace. So the second noun is describing the first noun. Well, in Hebrew, it's very similar. You have the two nouns, but they're usually joined without adding a word. So the first word of a word pair should be translated with of following it, which that's how the book says it. I think it's a little wordy, but here are the examples that the book gives. So you have devar melech, which is a word of a king. It's not word king or a word a king. When you see these, when you see nouns next to each other in Hebrew, they are functioning as a word pair. So you have a word of a king. Next one is bat melech, a daughter of a king. Next one, melech shalom, a king of peace. And last one, ish milchama, a man of war. So fairly simple concept. It does take a little bit of practice to get used to, but when you're reading through Hebrew, it's pretty quick to pick up. Next, we're going to look at how to recognize word pairs. So some words do not change when they appear as the first word in a word pair. And this is highlighting a change that can happen depending on where a word is in a word pair. So when words appear when they're the first word of a word pair, sometimes they can change. Some words don't, and these are some of the words that don't. For instance, the word king. The word king does not change any of its vowels or anything when it is the first word of a word pair. So you have just by itself melech. Well, in a word pair, it's melech. This one is melech shalom is the example they give, and it still appears the same way. The vowels are all the same and everything. But some words do change their vowels when they appear as the first word. So this is one example they give, which is house. By itself, it's bayit, but in a word pair, it's beit. Beit avadim, which is the example they use, which is a house of slaves, or a house of servants, right? However you want to translate that. So that's highlighting that sometimes when a word appears at the beginning of a word pair, it can change its vowels, which on one hand is a little confusing because it's not going to look the same, obviously. On the other hand, though, it's helpful because when you see a noun that has different vowels than what you're used to seeing, it kind of gives away the fact that it's part of a word pair. So it's a little bit of an indication. So another change that can happen is that when a singular noun appears as the first word and it ends in a hey, the hey changes to a tav, and there may be some vowel changes. So for example, you have here the word beast, bahema. Well, when it's in a word pair, the hey at the end changes to a tav. You also see pretty much all the vowels in the word change. So it's behemat when it's in a word pair form. Next, we're going to look at definite word pairs. So the first word of a Hebrew word pair never appears in the definite form. Another way to say this is that the second or the final word, because word pairs can have more than two words, when the final word in a word pair is definite or indefinite, that determines whether or not the other words are. The way I have it written here is the second or final word in a word pair determines if it's definite or indefinite. So for example, this word here, adon, is not definite. You don't have the definite hey at the beginning, anything like that. The second word, though, in this word pair, pacol, is definite. So, the last word of the word pair is definite. That means every word in the word pair is definite. Now, if this word were not definite, if this was just kol, which is indefinite, that means that all the words in the word pair are indefinite. And this translates to master of everything, because remember, hakol is an idiom for everything. Next is word pair strings. So more than two nouns can be joined together to form word pair strings, which I've already touched on. The last word remains unchanged in its spelling, which is consistent across all word pairs. The last word in a word pair does not change its spelling. Only the first word or the words that come prior to the final word in a word pair can change their spelling, such as their vowels. So this is an example they give in the book. Devar Eshet Melech Moab, which is the word of the wife of the king of Moab. So this is a long word pair string, and you do come across these. And when you're translating it directly, it can be a bit tedious to add in a bunch of ofs, right? The word of, the wife of, the king of Moab. But it is helpful just to know what you're talking about. Something else to note here is remember that places, like proper names, like of people or places, are always definite. So even though Moab does not have a definite hey, this is still a definite word, and that means every other word in the word pair is definite. And even though this has multiple words in it, this is a word pair string, everything is definite. So this is not a word of a wife of a king of Moab. It is the word of the wife of the king of Moab. And by the way, something else is that you're never going to have mixes of definite and indefinite words in a word pair. They're either all going to be definite or they are all going to be indefinite. All right, so the last thing we're going to touch on is the difference between Shema et and Shema pacol. So usually the word Shema, which is the word here, with a definite direct object is followed by et, and we learned about that rule in the last chapter. So for example, Hu Shema et kol Avraham, which literally is he heard the voice of Abraham, because this is in a word pair, kol Avraham, the word or the voice of Abraham. He heard the voice of Abraham. That's fairly straightforward, fairly simple. However, when Shema is followed by pacol, it means to listen to. Or another way to put it, which is sort of an older phrase, is hearken to the voice of, which those are just ways of saying obey. So, same sentence with a little bit of a change. Hu Shema et pacol Avraham. Which I guess literally would be, he heard in the voice of Abraham, which is just a horrible way to say it, because Shema Bakol is kind of like an idiom when you think about it. So this actually means he obeyed the voice of Abraham, or he obeyed Abraham, or he hearkened to the voice of Abraham, or something like that. But the idea is that the subject here, he, is obeying Abraham. There's more intentionality behind what's going on in this construction, Shema Bakol. Even with the et here, it's still the Shema mixed with Bakol kind of intensifies the meaning of what's going on. So it's not just someone, audibly hearing Abraham's voice. It is connoting that there is intentional listening and obeying happening here. So that's the difference between Shema et and Shema Bakol. All right, time for the exercises for this one. So I would recommend exercises 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, and again, as always, doing the tall tale at the end. Because those are always fun stories, always good ways to hammer home the principles that are learned in the exercises. And obviously, you can do all the exercises if you want. Obviously, the more you do, the better you're going to get. But these are the ones that I would recommend. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, and a tall tale. So that's going to wrap it up for this one, a little shorter. Pretty straightforward. And next time we will go over chapter 10, which is the plural form of word pairs. So until next time, take care.